Hey, how you doing? This is DJ Sana Cody Cyber Behike at the Taino Funhouse. I'd like to welcome you to my thoughts and feelings related to ancestral trauma. Or in some clinical circles, they call it intergenerational trauma. I don't know about you, but I want to share a constant dream I have, and that's of fire, the burning of bohíos. So usually when I have these nightmares, the day after I start walking through the streets where I work, and I start looking at places that are desolate or abandoned stores, and I see the garbage on the floor, and I think of my home island of Borinquen, and I say to myself, what am I doing here? Why am I here in the streets of New York City? Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and living in Washington Heights for over 30 years, I say to myself, why am I here? Why am I in New York? Why am I in America? Why am I not in some island somewhere fighting for the cause in the physical way? And then I look around and I look at the people and I look at what I need to do as a Bahike here in New York City, far, far away. And sometimes I live with this guilt of not doing enough on the ground, on the land, and it just hurts me that sometimes I'm not doing enough. And these are my thoughts, these are my feelings. And sometimes I get regretful. Sometimes I get those feelings of guilt. But I have to stay within those feelings and thoughts. This is what I've been taught, to hang in there, to work with others, and to deal with these thoughts and feelings through ceremonies. So I can remember the old caciques and warriors of old, especially in 1511 in Borinquen. It was the war council. And I remember how, in my dreams, how devastating the thoughts of losing one's culture. And then I think of Cacique Aguabana in 1511. He led this war party, this war council against the Spanish. And you just can imagine, for thousands of years, now we have to fight for our lives. And I think of another cacique, Uro Yuan, in 1511, who, through his leadership, was looking for evidence that these invaders were not as spiritual or powerful as they say they are. Then I think of Cacique Yukibo, who after the war 1511 managed to escape. There was betrayal, but he managed to escape and went back to his homeland of Luquillo. And I can remember these warrior women I'd see in my dreams. And I guess it's not surprising because the Taino women were the ones who carried on this tradition of we know. And the struggle is real. It must have been tough for our women to deal with men who did not follow a protocol or moral compass like the Taino men did. It must have been horrible fighting back the rapes. But I know that the women in my dreams, they were very unified and they were tough. They wore their regalia with honor, the feathers, the power of the Kohoba ceremony, and they knew that they can soar high in their battles. And I remember the different men who unify, defending their women, defending the children, defending the elders, the grandfathers and their grandmothers. They had to be strong, not just physically, but in spirit. These were the warriors. And then I can remember a lot of the men in my life who came to New York, who were just like these warriors. They had to learn a new language and they had to work. And they instilled in me a sense of discipline, to be strong, to defend the values of family, and to stick together. And I still remember the women in my life who was not easy for them, who worked very hard. And as we know, our Caribbean women, are often victims, but yet they're a survivor, just like Cacique Loisa, 1511. She she well, controversially, she married a Spaniard, an old political tradition of marrying the enemy. So I can remember in my dream the Bejiques sitting with the Bejique women and saying, you have a long journey ahead. You must teach the women, you must teach the children our sacred ways, and do not be afraid. And I know that there were men and women who survived. Why? Because I know I went to Borinque and I met a lot of descendants of these Taino people, and they were marvelous. The woman you see in the middle, the elder, is a medicine woman. She still understands the secrets of the medicine. Isn't that amazing? It still exists. Isn't it amazing that different islands can get together and to celebrate Taino culture, can celebrate that we are still here, and that the battle continues, and we have allies as well. And it is wonderful that the women once again have returned into leadership roles in Yucayekes, like Stephanie Bailey of Arayeke Yucayek, leading the way with other women in the Yucayeke to show that the ancestors was truly their wildest dreams. And I remember the children who right now are learning Taino culture, like my daughter Anani. When you teach the children, you let them decide. You don't force them. You show them. Let them be creative. Let them decide. And if you do a good job, in other words, if you're honest with yourself and who you are as a Taino, and don't let anyone tell you anything else, the children will watch and they will learn to be proud of themselves. Self-confidence. Now there are many right now, spiritual people, caciques, who are following a path that's not easy. But we're diverse. We have blood of the African, we have blood also of the conqueror, the invader. But we were not conquered. You know why? Because the Jibaros, like Don Pedro here from Cayey, kept those sacred traditions, not of the Spanish, but of the Taino, to honor the land, the water, the food. Very, very important. And then you have a great uncle who was a proud Borinqueneer at just a young age, very young age. He gave his life for his people. There's another person who gave their life for the people, and Natayare Melendez, who unified communities up in the mountains of Nahuaque. Even though she's not with us, she leaves a legacy of learning to teach the children. And I was privileged enough to bring my son Deminon into one of the Nahuaque schools to visit one of the teachers, and he was able to teach a class on the Nahuaque alphabet. And what an honor it was for me to learn this, to see this. And I can remember my journeys in Borinquen, witnessing with people the beauty and the magic that is Borinquen, the homelands. And it was this power that makes me strong. So when we come to New York, we bring the spirit of the Taino. We bring the spirit of our ancestors from South America, Central America, North America, wherever you live. If there's 2 or 3 Taino, the nation is there. So continue to read your books. Continue to understand that the history and her story can be confusing and it can lie. So you need to focus on what's important. Go back to the land. Clear the land. Plant those seeds. Just like the ancestors did. Let's be strong. So we can create magic. So we can blend the same spirit that gives every living force energy It's the same force that we can use, not to divide, but to unify. And don't forget, you need to eat those sacred foods that have been planted for thousands of years in the Caribbean. And some came from out east. And that's all right. Why? Because it gives us strength. And it reminds us of our commonness, our unity. Don't forget the cleanse. As Taino, our ancestors taught us to swim, to cleanse with the sacred water. And this is a universal teaching that it's important to root yourself not just in the earth, but in the water, the ocean that Temina Kanakarago offered us when the sacred gore broke. We give honor to Yokahubawa Manakoti, who's of the ocean. And he is the Yuka spirit that gives the people energy. Even though we suffer issues with energy and destroying the earth at times, the rainbow will still appear naturally. So it's important as a people to dance just like our ancestors did. To remember that we are spiritual beings in the physical experience. So we have to unify. We must be strong. Strong like the koki who refuses to stop to sing. Looking for a mate. Looking for a friend. Always through song. So yes, let's be strong. Like the koki and Borinqueneer. And let's also be smart. Just like the lizards. That we find them all throughout the islands. The lizard is the unifier of all these islands. They're very, very smart. They know how to survive. And they're very quick. And let's not forget the root of the trauma. When churches came. When the greedy man came to destroy. Let's not forget that we still live in a colonial mindset. So we need to resist as much as we can. We need to teach our children that we are no longer slaves. And it's great that the women continue to battle. They continue to teach. And thank God, because the children are watching. The children are watching and they want to learn. They want to act.